Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Welcome to our community members to the finale of NANOvember 2012. Yes. And I just want to share with you a let's see. That concludes my presentation. Is Steve Ferens here? Where is Steve? Steve Ferens is the one who did the video. Please give him a round of applause. And Adam Zappel, could you introduce your team that put NanoVember together so that we can recognize them?
Sure.
Stand up.
Laura Wheeler. Melissa Renzi. Is Kristen here? Kristen Hacker.
She's outside.
She's at the registration table.
We won't let her in. Thank you. I always get criticized for dressing up in our normal business attire. And given that I'm not Steve Jobs, I'm going to explain, after years of being criticized for showing up without suits, and people claiming that I'm showing them disrespect, and claiming that I have to dress up to show people respect. Last year, the Business Review had an award ceremony, and I was one of the people accepting an award. And Steve Janak and everybody is like, wear a suit, wear a suit, wear a suit. You gotta wear a suit, you gotta wear a suit. So I wore a suit. The publisher of the Business Review calls in the first awardee, November 10, 2011. The first awardee comes on stage to accept the award. Second awardee comes on stage to accept the award, and the third one. So there you go. And Senator Gillibrand's visit to PVA Precision Valve and Automation. This is, we have only two of them, two senators. February 6, 2012. This is the CEO walking her around. He's wearing jeans. Any questions? Governor Andrew Cuomo's nanotechnology strategy, or why is New York investing in nanotechnology? So I thought over the next 3-4 hours, I'll walk you through what? The 21st century global economy, what I call the 4 C's. The first C, competency. The US economy is doing more with less. Let me show you what I mean. These are the goods in trillion. Between 2005 and 2010, you would note, excluding the dip for the recession that happened in 08, 09, the manufacturable goods in the US went up from 3 trillion in 2005 to about 3.6 trillion in 2010. However, the jobs, meaning the manufacturing jobs that were producing this output, went down from about 23 million to about 17 million. We're producing, in 2010, we produced with 17 million people, 25% more than what we did in 2005 with about 23, 24 million people. What does that mean? US economy is constantly moving upscale, driven by high-tech innovation, and education. Focus on ever higher tech as lower tech production moves overseas. In last year, History Channel had a half-an-hour segment about the computer chip. And at the beginning of the segment, they showed headings from newspapers talking about crying foul, the doom and gloom, the industry is moving offshore, people are losing their jobs. And then the commentators stopped and asked the viewers, give us a couple seconds to guess, which era this is from. It was from the beginning of the 20th century, when the horse and cart industry was moving to Mexico and Canada, and the US was moving into the automotive industry. So going higher tech is not new for the US. It's been in the US has always led in high tech. As of May 2012, the Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics, remember there is anywhere from 15 to 17 million Americans looking for jobs. And yet, according to the Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics, they reported over 3 million unfilled job slots in the US. It's now about 3.5 million vacancies. And those vacancies are still increasing. Why? Because due to the lack of talented scientists and engineers. We have about 3.5 million openings in the US, and we don't have qualified scientists and engineers to fill them. In emerging fields such as, of course, nanotechnology. All US employment sectors have entered what is now commonly known as the cyber mental age. You know, it sounds like they're going crazy, but I think that was supposed to be a joke, guys. I could repeat it if you don't think it's funny, until it becomes funny. Where advanced technical expertise is replacing low and what's called semi-skilled workers. In the innovation-driven economy, basically it pays to go to college and earn a nano degree. Let me show you the median weekly earning per $1,000 from the 1980s to 2009. This is for high school graduates. Mind you, those are the high school graduates who didn't specialize in high tech or ended up going to 2-year school for high tech or science or engineering. If you notice that the net income per week for high school graduates has went down actually from about $1,100 to probably $900, $850 within about 20 years. Compare that with those who are graduating with a bachelor's degree. You would note that it remained steady through the mid-90s, and then it started going up quite quickly. And the gap is increasing between bachelor's degree and high school degrees. And yet, when you go also to graduate school, you would notice that it always continued increasing. And it increased by about 50, 60% over 20 years. And that's adjusted for inflation. The thing that's even more striking is, if you look at graduates with bachelor's and graduate degrees in 1980, you would note that they started in the workforce with the same or less salary. Look at the gap in 2010 between graduate and bachelor's. So it's a matter of do or die to teach and learn in an ever nano-driven economy. Even us old dogs, the teachers meaning, must learn new tricks to address the emerging workforce nano-skill gap. The good news though is we are trainable. Those of you who saw this before, you can't start laughing before the movie plays. So we can learn. And interestingly enough, we have one trump card we haven't realized we have in the global nano-driven economic war. It's actually our labor force. This is interesting data came out a few months ago. This is the labor force change, age 15 to 64, in the top industrial nations. For Japan, it's projected to decrease between 2000 and 2050 by nearly half. Korea, 30%. Europe, it's going to increase and start decreasing by end up 25%. China, the only one that's going to keep increasing is the US. 42% in 50 years. These are the people who innovate, who drive the economy, who carry the manufacturing. And if we train them right, I think the competitiveness of the US globally will continue to increase. The second C, clock. Pace of innovation is accelerating. Innovation is now measured in units of web year. And by web year, we mean 3 months. 1,000 quintillion bytes of information were produced in 2010. That's 1,000 trillion million. I guess 90% of it probably was spam, but still. This is what it looked like. It's even still bigger than the budget deficit. It's more than the prior 9,000 years combined. We produce information in 1 year. And Wikipedia grew from 100 million words in 2004 to over 4 billion words in 276 languages in less than 5 years. Time for market penetration. This is the time it takes to reach 1/4 of the US population in years. The car that was introduced in 1887 took 55 years to reach 1/4 of the population. The radio, 22 years. The PC, 16. The cell, 13. The internet, 7. And the iPod, 5. And the pace is accelerating even further. Time it took Apple to sell 1 million iPods, 73 days. Time it took Apple to sell 1 million iPads, 28 days. Time it took Apple to sell 1 million iPads 2 days. iPhones 4 sold in 3 days, 1.7 million. iPhones 4S sold in 3 days, 4 million. An iPhone 5 sold in 3 days, to the chagrin of Samsung, 5.5 million. Literally, the evolution is accelerating at a pace that's mind-numbing. And this is why this ad is perfect.
Even newer. Everything else is obsolete.
I just bought this
Oh, wait. Oh, 4D TV? Stupid.
You got the wrong TV, silly head.
The new buyback program. You buy it now, we buy it back when the new...
You know, the best guarantee to have a new laptop or a computer on the market is for you to buy the current version. Do you know that? And by 2013, supercomputers will exceed the computational power of the human brain. And by 2049, a laptop will exceed the computational power of the entire human race. Now to the third C, cost. Case in point, our industry, the computer chip industry. This is the cost for designing the chips from within 3 years, 3 generations of chips. Those numbers up there, 65 nanometer, 45 nanometer, and 32 nanometer, are the size of each transistor in the chip. You recall that one human hair, the cross-section is 100,000 nanometers, or 1 nanometer is 1/1000th of a meter. The design per chip technology tripled to 75 million just within 3 generations. We're now working at the 14 nanometer generation, and the design is in the $500 million. R&D, it more than tripled, doubled. I need to learn how to count. Between the 65 and 32 at 3 billion. The most recent Intel chip cost $6.8 billion in R&D. And the fabs themselves have doubled between the 65 and 32. The cost per manufacturing plant was about 5 billion. And this is on 300 millimeter wafer, not the 450 millimeter wafer, the new generation. So the R&D revenue, which drives the industry and drives competitiveness in the US, is now in real crisis. Why? This is the annual growth in revenue for the whole industry. And this is the annual increase in R&D cost. Basically, by 2020, the R&D cost is going to exceed the revenue if something is not done. The annual growth average is about 6.5%, and this is an increase that any other industry would kill for, 6.5%. And yet, the cost of R&D is more than double. The increase in the cost of R&D is more than double that of revenue. R&D costs are rising faster than revenue, with a projected $2 billion annual gap, and the US university infrastructure is outdated and irrelevant. Most of the university infrastructure in computer chip is about 20, 25 years old. And the fab investments are also another limiting factor. Fab costs per billions. This is the land and the building. Between 1960 and 2015 projected, the cost per land and the building has increased. It's projected to increase to about 800 million. But the cost of the equipment in the 60s, the cost was lower than the building. It's about 10 times now, by 2015, the cost of the building, and it's going to exceed 10 billion per fab. And as you know, the rest of the world does not play by our rules. China's ultimate subsidy. China spends 5 billion. This is why we invented Vibrate. It also feels better. To build and equip an entire fab in Hubei province provides to Shanghai-based SMIC to manage and run, without SMIC spending a single, that's the Chinese currency. It happened a week after the announcement of Global Foundries here, the 1 billion and change subsidy. China announced the ultimate subsidy. This is the competition we're facing. And 22 fake Apple stores in just one Chinese city. This is what the stores look like. This is actually a sales guide. And it wasn't until the reporter from Reuters walked in and noticed something was strange about those stores that the Chinese authorities stepped in and they're trying to shut them down. 22, just in one city. And actually they claim they're not Apple, because if you look at the t-shirt, the Apple itself, it doesn't have the cut in it that Apple has. You know, the Apple has like a small line here. Oh, I don't have it. This gotta be fake. That guy who sold it to me near Battery Park said it was genuine. The fourth C, complexity. Case in point, nanotechnology. The old days of somebody going to learn physics, chemistry, or biology, or whatever, are long gone. Now we're in a world of interdisciplinary science and engineering, where nanotechnology is at the interface of physics, chemistry, biology, computer science, mathematics, material science, and even music and the arts.
There we go.
They even do music in the arts. Who doesn't think this is funny? Because if they, because I was going to play it again if you think it's not funny. The most striking thing about nanotechnology I'm going to take you a trip down memory lane to get to a conclusion. These are historical highlights circa 1900. Average cost of new home, $5,092. Average income per year was $432. Average price for new car was $1,000. It was the Model T Ford. 1 gallon of kerosene was 30 cents. Now it's the name of a rapper. 1 pound of bacon was 11 cents. Edison phonograph was $19. That was the granddaddy of the iPhone. And in 1900, the Hollerith tabulating machine was unveiled. None of you probably heard of it. And yet, it was the grandpa and grandma of today's computer. The grandparent of today's computer, it weighed over 200 pounds. There was actually a portable version, a laptop version that weighed 150 pounds. I'm just kidding. And it cost over $10,000 those days. It cost $10,000 in 1900. Fast forward to July 20, 2011. The newest MacBook Air was unveiled. It weighs 2.38 pounds. And it cost $1,234. I think Steve Jobs did this on purpose, 1, 2, 3, 4. What do you notice? Everything we deal with in society increase in price manifold, except the computers and the high-tech products. The price went down while the output more than quintupled, quadrupled, whatever the number is. This is the beauty of nanotechnology and high-tech. Another way to look at it, portable phone, circa 1990.
Go where you wanna go, call when you wanna call.
Get the lowest price ever at Radio Shack on the most powerful transportable cellular phone system. Just $7.99 when you sign up with Radio Shack's authorized cellular phone carrier.
Go where you wanna go.
There's nothing else to buy, and it's ready to go wherever you go.
Call when you wanna call.
Use in your car, or go portable and take it along. Radio Shack.
All of you thought they were geniuses when they came out with those phones. Now the portable phone, circa 2007. The iPhone. But you gotta remember, it's not just a phone. It's a GPS, even though the latest map technology has, it's a calculator, it's a agenda for appointments, and you name it. It's my favorite invention. It's a flashlight. It's a boombox, and both, it's a camera and a phone. All those in this. So basically, in 20 years, we took all this stuff and put it in this. That's the beauty of innovation, at least for some of us. Cell phone, circa 2015. This is what cell phones are going to look like in about 2 or 3 years. Even lighter, thinner, and have many more functions. And for those of you who are Star Trek fans, another version of it would be this. This is, I'm not making this up. This is what the phones are going to look like. And still, they're going to have vibrate. And how this is revolution achieved, as I said, by nanotechnology, the innovation engine revolutionizing our world. It's a tool that is truly providing a revolution, as the US Academy of Science said. And it's a tool that we have to be very careful on how to use. Otherwise, we might end up with this. if you're not careful with that tool, and nanotechnology is creating exciting new science and engineering disciplines and leading to unbelievable toys, amazing inventions, and remarkable cures. I'll give you a few examples. First, what we do, nanoelectronics. The hovering laptop. Sorry, Chris, you've seen this like 28,000 times. Obviously, it's not hovering yet. This is real. But this is real. This is not made up. But this is an example of an innovation that the guy who did it enjoyed for about 3 minutes, because there is no way they would manufacture this. That would put most computer companies out of business, because typically we update our laptops when we break them. And so this invention is never going to make it to the marketplace. This one, though, the clone hologram, this one is true. And actually, that technology in 2008, when Obama was giving his acceptance speech in Chicago at some, I don't remember what field, CNN transported the reporter from where she was covering the story into the studio using this technology. She was standing there talking to Wolf Blitzer in 3D, and she looked like Princess Leia. It brought tears to our eyes, geeks. So that technology is already in business. Another example is intelligence gathering aerial technology, circa 1980s. This is the SR-71 Blackbird. I don't know how many gazillion it costs to make. In one of the projects we had here, we were helping Department of Defense with chip technology. And I asked in return if I could fly one of those. They said no. Circa 1990s, these are the drones that we use mostly now to do intelligence gathering, you name it. Circa 2015, this is real. So next time you have a bug landing on you, be careful what you do with it. Nanobioscience and nanomedicine. The NanoSensor Probe. It's a nano needle with a tip 1/1000th the size of a human hair and carries a laser beam. Probes cell interior for signs, whatever, in this case, cancer-causing damage. These are examples of cells. This is the nano needle, and you can see parts of the blue laser beam. And this is an example of a cell being probed for DNA damage. We can literally now probe individual cells for signs of DNA damage. And it'll probably take the FDA another 100 years to approve this. Blood tests hold promise to spot lone cancer cells. That's another test. Test uses a microchip that resembles a lab slide, covered with 78,000 microposts like bristles on a hairbrush. This is what it looks like. The posts are coated with antibodies to bind tumor cells, whatever antibodies you want to use. And basically, as the blood is forced through the chip, the cells spin kind of like you're playing whatever, anything you want with balls, like pinball machine. Cancer cells stick and stains make them glow. Cells are counted and captured for further analysis. This is an example. The two purple are cancer cells. Oh, this one you're gonna love. Scientists developed my reading brain scans. Scans combine computer algorithm with MRI images. Computers are programmed to recognize brain patterns that commonly occur with specific thoughts. So there is some good to be had if people have no thoughts. Computers identified intentions over 70% of the time. This is an example. The patterns were shown to the subject the word neuron. Of course, the computer wasn't told what the pattern was. Computer reconstructs pattern from 8 brain scans. And this is the average. Not bad, huh? So next time you go to a job interview, don't think of anything. Nanocars.
Autonomous Labs proudly presents. In this video, we're going to show you how to control a car using brain sensors. On the left is our car. On the right, you can see the EEG sensors used for measuring brain activity. The human brain produces electromagnetic signals. They can be measured using a special cap with 16 sensors. The measurements from the sensors can be interpreted as patterns by the computer. The test subject puts the sensor cap on and trains the computer. The software learns to associate 2 different brain patterns with left or right directions. Once the training is finished, we can ask the test subject to move a cube to the right or to the left of the computer screen. Hey, just by thinking 2 different things, you can control the computer. In our first experiment, the test subject uses the sensor cap to give commands to our autonomous car. The car is equipped with video cameras, radars, and laser sensors that provide the car with a full 3-dimensional view of its surroundings. The car drives automatically to the corner. At the intersection, the test subject orders the car to take a right. The car continues automatically. The small frame on the upper right shows the laser sensor readings. The frame in the lower right shows the brain command for the car. After a small delay, the car turns around the corner, as you can see. For our second experiment, we trained the computer to recognize 4 brain patterns. The test subject can steer the car to the left or the right. He can also accelerate or decelerate the car. Of course, you should never try this at home.
Yeah, because you
For
have
safety reasons, we
you have
tested
something
in a
like
large
this
open
at
space
home.
at Tempelhof Airport in Berlin.
You got the gist
You
of
can
it.
see here the test subject incrementing.
This is true. Now, as I'm obligated to always finish every movie with a cheesy joke, I couldn't figure out what's the best punchline for this one until I was in New York City in a cab drive. And I realized that one of the best advantages of an invention is for cab drivers in New York City. Because now, with this invention, they can tell everybody else they're number 1 with both hands. So in a nutshell, in the global economic race, the forces have turned the prevailing business paradigm upside down. Literally, we're in a race. As I said, upside down. Cost and complexity are creating elitism with very few haves and most have-nots. The traditional US economic model, which used to say, if an idea is worth it, industry will find a way to fund it, is dead. It's now being replaced with a 21st century model for economic vitality, which is publicly organized and managed public-private partnerships. Governor Andrew Cuomo, September 2011. That was when he announced the global 450C consortium. The New York strategy centers around CNSE and nanotechnology. And we think we need 4 pillars for success: nanotechnology innovation, state-of-the-art facilities, financially leveraged consortia, and lifelong learning curricula. At the core of it are the innovation and education. They drive everything else. We could have the best subsidy ever for companies, and if you don't have the right educational programs and the right innovation at the university, they're never going to stay. CNSE, circa 1900. Not a creature was stirring, not even a tree. There weren't even trees. CNSE, circa 2012. This is when we're finishing the next facility, NFX, which we have NanoFab South, NanoFab East, NanoFab North, NanoFab Central, and I wanted to call it NanoFab West, until a few very smart people on my staff reminded me that the acronym for NanoFab West is NFW, which could mean something else. CNSE circa 2017. This is the current facility we're finishing on the kind of like top left-hand side. Those two additional ones are going to be online by 2017. The first one at the bottom is Zen building, the Zero Energy Nanotechnology building. We just issued the RFP. State-of-the-art infrastructure, flexible, adaptable, and cost-effective. $8.5 billion in public-private investments so far, with over 1 million square feet of lab, office, electronic conference, and classroom, and 105,000 square feet of Class 1 capable clean rooms. 2,650 high-tech employees call this place their home, at an average of $81,000 per job. By 2017, Jay is going, wait a minute, people make 81,000. By 2017, the complex size will expand by 50% to over 1.5 million square feet, with over 225,000 square feet of Class 1 clean rooms, over 18 billion in public-private investments, and 4,250 high-tech jobs at an average of 90,000 per job. And we're not only in Albany. We have now what we refer to as the ecosystem, with 4 locations. The CNSE mothership in Albany, the solar facility up north, which we called SEDC, the Solar Energy Development Center, so that Saratoga would have 2 SEDs, the other one being the Saratoga Economic Development Corporation. The SUNY IT CNSC partnership, where we focus on the packaging and system on a chip side of what we do, and the Center of Excellence, the Smart Systems Technology Center in Rochester. And we expect to add 1 more location in the next few months. Over 3,097 companies across New York benefit from contracts and funding from Albany. Over 1,464 high-tech and 1,633 traditional companies. And the statewide economic impact, we track them using federal NAICS codes. Through 2010, CNSE helped create or retain 12,500 nano jobs in New York at $80,000 annual wage. That's over $1 billion a year going in salaries into the state economy. By 2017, we would help create or retain, we project over 25,000 nano jobs in New York. That's about $2.5 billion annual payroll, just only payroll. That's why the governor is making this investment. And
Tonight on Robo Bash, we got 5-time world champion. And
this was the
in
competition.
corner,
This is
Mini
us.
Fridge.
Todd, what is it?
It's a Bud Light.
Lock on.
I think this is what we did to the competition in this business. And don't take it from me.
Best workers in the world. You got an outstanding university. Now I want what's happening in Albany to happen all across the country, places like Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Raleigh.
So New York is actually open for business in nanotechnology. So welcome to New York, the Empire State. Thank you.